right, round number 3. Let's see if we can do a little better this time. Our hand is... Oh, we're on the draw, by the way. Our hand is acceptable adjacent. It feels like something we can make it work, but doesn't really feel like we're getting paid off in any way for keeping this hand, and it's going to be a little painful. Again, that's tough to evaluate appropriately blind. And I suspect that the deck with Simian Spirit Guides and Gemstone Cavern doesn't mulligan particularly well, and Chalice and sort of these larger pieces that we're cobbling together a bunch of smaller pieces for, but by the same token, we are an Eldrazi Temple deck. I feel like I want to mulligan. On the play, like turn 1 Leonin Arbiter can definitely get some people, and then sort of hope it works out, but it's tough blind, but I'm going to ship it. Geez, this hand is not better, and now I'm in a position where, yeah, that's going straight to the bottom, where I kind of need to keep it. Thalia is pretty good in the format in a lot of matchups, but this deck is tougher, I think, blind a little bit, which maybe means that I'm supposed to be keeping a 7 like that, just without better knowledge of what exactly we're going to need in any given matchup. Spirebelth Canal probably means Thalia will be good. So we will likely be happy with 2 copies of that in case something awful happens to our first copy. Some sort of act of God, like a fiery bolt from the sky or something along those lines, to deal it, I don't know, 3 damage or so, something like that. All right, looks like Storm, most likely, unless it's some far more fringe combo deck. You never know. It is modern. Just gonna play Plains and say go. Displacer will not be particularly relevant in this matchup. Most of our cards won't. Chalice and Thalia obviously can play pretty big roles, though Thalia obviously gets counteracted by Brawl or Electromancer, meaning Dismember can also have some serious importance. Speak of the devil. I already have an Electromancer, so this Thalia is not going to be doing a terribly large amount of work. Let's just play another Plains for now. Ghost Quarter was probably the play. At least Thalia can attack past Electromancer. That's nice. Chalice definitely can come in handy. Chalice on 2, a lot more impactful than Chalice on 1 for turns where my opponent's going to go off. Chalice on 1 really only making a lot of sense in preventing my opponent from efficiently cantripping, which is not bad. But when I'm this close to Chalice on 2, I think it would benefit me to wait a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and make our attack and then play Eldrazi Displacer. Again, not relevant other than that it's a 3/3. There is a lot of danger for me to die here, but again, honestly, not much Chalice on 1 would do for me, plus there's always the threat of Remand. My opponent does Remand that Eldrazi Displacer, hopefully clearing a path for us to resolve Chalice if we don't just die. This looks like a turn where they might have intended to just gifts in our end step, but they could have access to another Remand. Let's try attacking first. There's not a ton they can do about a Chalice on 2 in game 1. Like, some people play like Unsubstantiate to deal with random stuff, but obviously that won't deal with a Chalice on 2. Oh, I'm not thinking of my own Thalia. What a fool I've been. And I do feel like they're leading on a gifts here. I'm such a goofball. I'm like canceling these out in my head, but obviously that's not how that works for me or how it works for Chalice at all. But Let's do some more mana tapping like we are not sure what we want to do. I think now I just have to cross my fingers again, but I am worried that they're going to cast a Gifts Ungiven instead of remanding this. But again, yeah, maybe I'm supposed to cast this on one last turn, given the fact that I was misevaluating everything and not counting on my own Thalia because I am a big dumb fool, but yeah, Gifts does happen as anticipated, and we are stuck with this Chalice in our hand. So, probably dead, but without another mana dork, it's still kind of difficult for my opponent to cobble together everything they need. Wow, this is tougher than usual. So my go-to thing in this spot is often just to bin Past in Flames and bin Manamorphose and just say, look, you only get to use this Past in Flames once, and I don't want you to draw a card. But in this case, I might be trying a lot harder to restrict my opponent on mana. Though giving my opponent a ritual is not very different than giving them the Past in Flames since it costs less. But I may actually leave them with the Manamorphose, which is unusual. So that would be leave them with Manamorphose and Pyretic Ritual, binning Desperate Ritual and Past in Flames. Yeah, not what I would usually want to do there. Giving them another like extra Manamorphose casts is generally something I'm trying to avoid, even if it's not relevant like 90% of the time. But in a situation where I'm actually trying to tax their mana at all. By the way, I don't think this Ghost Quarter would realistically do anything here. 3 islands, one mountain is probably the minimum I could expect from my opponent. And I need it to hopefully live and cast my Chalice. Alright, so Chalice on 1 would have done something, but opponent spending some mana to do that is also a great sign for me. Also a great sign for me. So not terribly likely to die, so now we just have to hope to dodge Remand on this turn. Hopefully my idiocy wasn't too much of a telegraph to my opponent of what we have in our hand. Alright, another cantrip. So we would have stopped a lot of cantrips this turn, apparently. Would have got a lot of value out of the Chalice in that way. However, doesn't really stop us from dying, and I think this is going to meaningfully... Wow, 5 cantrips. This is going to meaningfully stop us from dying. So I'm still contented with my decision, even if there were some small road bumps along the way. That's what we'll call it. This time I'm going to take a pain. I probably should have done that last turn even. Also should have attacked first, but whatever. We'll be all right. The biggest reason I want to play this is in case... No, it doesn't really matter. I guess if I drew like Eldrazi Temple... Yeah, I guess it's if I draw Eldrazi Temple, right? So that I can go play Eldrazi Temple and still use my Horizon Canopy and cast Mr. Smasher. So that would not give me enough mana to cast Smasher and use Displacer for the kill, but that's okay. Can't have it all. Opponent casting another sleight of hand here. They found like nearly all. That's the 4th sleight of hand and the 3 Serum Visions. That's pretty insane. What have their scries been like? Are they just bottoming all these and just hitting them anyway? Yeah, I mean, 2 bottom, 1 top, 2 bottom. That is going to get countered. They were remanding this, but that also gets countered. Bolt my Displacer. Okay. Main deck bolts. Gotta get those humans. Another canopy. Yeah, this doesn't really seem to matter a ton here. How we do this. We have 2 lethal threats. Yeah. Not a lot our opponent can do from that spot. Okay, so Graveyard Hate, a little less relevant in the post-board games often, depending on how these Storm players do sideboard, but likely going to be worth it to me anyway. Worship, I think, actually actively just a trap. Most of the time when Storm goes off, they're going to be able to do absurd numbers of damage, which includes being able to grape shot all of my creatures to death. So I don't think it's more hoops for them to jump through, but ultimately not going to stop them from winning the game most of the time. Having the Ratchet Bomb for empty tokens is likely wise. I don't have any other good answers to those. I guess Stone does that job as well, my mistake. So we could bring in these 4 cards. I still like Dismembers for their threats. Copter can help me find the cards that are a bit more relevant. Arbiters, I suppose, are just terrible. Our opponent is even playing a fetchless list, it would appear, so basically doing stone nothing. Thalia is fine. I want all of my mana accelerants. Definitely want the Chalice, so we can try to accelerate into putting it on 2. Thought Knots are great. Displacers are pretty weak. I don't believe any of this is better. I mean, Purge hits Electromancer, but not Baral, so I don't love that. Yeah, I still think having a 3/3 is better than having a Worship. I just don't think it's going to stop my opponent from killing me, basically 90+% of the time, and having a 3/3 can help me actually finish some games. So, all right, Gemstone Caverns on the draw, plus a Chalice, plus a Rest in plus a Rest in Peace, Rest in Pleats. It's about pants. I am going to keep this in case it wasn't clear. I am enthused about our hand. The hard part is what I'm going to pitch, because all of these cards are they're just great. I kind of think it's the Dismember. Like, I want a threat to actually close the game, and this feels like a good one. But Rest in Peace might not be enough to slow down the game enough to me actually get to cast this on 2. Definitely can't hit a land here. So it's either Smasher or Dismember. Yeah, I actually think I'm just going to take the ultra-conservative line and say, look, I'll find something eventually. I just want to make sure I can kill their first mana dork, have Rip, and have Chalice. If I draw another Chalice, I'll cast this on 1 here. Opponent didn't even cast a cantrip on 1, though, so they're likely don't even really have any at the moment. Let's just go ahead and keep this Chalice for Chalice on 2, resolve our other threat in Rest in Peace, have Deck and Stone for empty tokens, apparently, have Dismember for Baral or an Electromancer. Ooh, are we going for, like, early tokens? That would be great for us with our recent draw of Deck and Stone, but it feels like we're going for early tokens. Yep. Well, very fortunate for us that we drew one of our 2 outs to such a thing. Opponent doesn't even get any clues, of course. They didn't have to use too terribly many resources. The game isn't just over, but obviously that's going to be a huge boon for us. And then to be able to follow up, ooh. That's a spicy one. Obviously the Rips make that not relevant, but oh, this is a bit of a bummer because, well, whatever. I'm just landing this. I'd actually rather have 2 Chalice on 2 probably than 1 and 2 anyway. No, because Shattering Spree might be one of their outs. Wow. Our opponent has not been drawing so hot with the Ascension, and we're drawing just absolute gasoline. Just absolute gasoline. A turn 4 Smasher when we've like already cast a Rest in Peace and a Chalice and Deck and Stoned a bunch of tokens. I mean, what more could I ask for in this matchup? And the answer is just actual nothing. I couldn't ask for a single additional thing. Maybe I cast this on turn 3 and cast another Chalice for 1 on turn 2. Maybe that's what I could ask for if I was a complete greed maniac. And now, just in case we weren't asking for enough, or just in case we weren't getting enough, Eldrazi Displacer shows up to go ahead and shore up the amount of turns it's going to take for us to end this game. Okay. So we're going to get this repealed. That's not bad. It would still be very difficult for our opponent to win from here, but that's not bad at all. Braid this thing. Okay, yeah. Now it's near impossible for us to die, if not just actually impossible, but regardless, that means they're not dead here, and maybe they have the remand to stop the Chalice on 2 when it's coming down again here. Certainly not going to draw off Canopy. The advantage of casting this Thalia is that I can still leave up Dismember. Also Chalice on 1. I think I'm just going to go for this. It would be weird for my opponent to bounce the Chalice on 2 without a plan to deal with it, but they were at a point where they're pretty desperate, so yeah. So they don't necessarily have a way, they're just having to hope to find it. See if they found Remand off of that Manamorphose. They did not. So they have to have like another repeal, or okay, not yet. Shattering Spree, repeal. Obviously they can't have like Echoing Truth or Hurkyl's Recall or something along those lines. All right, well, can't complain about my draws this match. Everything went pretty ideally, that's for sure. I'll see you in the following round in just a moment.